part of what drove me to science fiction, just liking to read it even and write it, is ethical dilemmas and moral quandaries. That to me is like the pinnacle of what we're trying to say, like these heavy what ifs.
Do you love science fiction and fantasy books? You found yourself in the right dimension. Welcome to the greatest podcast in the multiverse, where each week I talk to science fiction and fantasy authors about myth, magic, and the infinite possibilities of storytelling. I am your host, Herman Stuernagel, and I will be taking you on a journey with some of your favorite authors, helping you to get to know them and possibly uncover some new literary gems along the way. Ready to explore? Because on this show, every conversation is a doorway into a different world. So welcome back to the greatest podcast in the multiverse. I'm super excited for my guest today, AJ Pagan IV. AJ, welcome to the podcast. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Herman. So am I. It's great.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Why don't you kick us off and get us started and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm I guess mid-30s now. I work in pharmaceutical sciences. I've been an author for a few years now, and I'm an SFWA member. I like to cook, travel, and read and write as much as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have a few books out, you said. How did you get started writing? Kind of what brought you to that point in your journey?
Yeah, it's funny. What started to get me writing was writing, which is silly on the surface. But I was writing my master's thesis in organic chemistry,
Okay.
and I was looking for jobs in chemistry and a new burgeoning field called 3D organ printing.
Oh, okay.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's still very new. They're not getting transplanted into people yet, but about 8 years ago when I was mastering out, I was looking for jobs in this field. So the whole point is to create from stem cells an organ that's made specifically for you
Hmm.
that you would need transplanted instead of getting a donor.
Right.
So I was looking for jobs in this field, and
Okay.
I was kind of thinking just in the back of my mind, like these what ifs, because I'm a scientist. And just, like what if we made the mistake to create a brain?
Hmm.
And that was my first novel, Brian Created Intelligence, was about the first bodiless brain that was created by a biotech company and basically lived in a vat and was created for the sole purpose of studying and to improve humankind. So
Right.
that was,
Okay.
yeah, that was the beginning of my writing career, was that first novel.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, so are you currently in that field? Is that kind of what you're kind of doing?
No, I'm in process development for
Okay.
yeah, purification. It's not the same. It takes a lot of drive and a lot of energy, and yeah, I don't think I'm there for that. I'm more for the writing.
Mhm. Okay. No, and that's totally cool. I was just gonna I was gonna lead you down a rabbit trail if if that was still your field, but it's all good. So how many books do you have out now, AJ?
Well, I have Brian Created Intelligence, and then my second novel, Exoputians, actually debuts. It's the 13th, so it debuts the 17th, so in 4 days.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. So when this comes out, it'll already be out in the world, so
yeah,
people can go check that out right away.
yeah.
Um, that's awesome. So you put out the first book. When did your first book come out?
November 22 was the published date.
Okay, so you got about a year and a half in between.
Yeah.
So you wrote this. You wrote the first book kind of based on the positions you were looking at the time, and then you continued writing a second book. Can you tell us a little bit more about kind of what drove you to keep writing once you got that first idea out?
Yeah. I had this drive to continue writing after my first book was finished. I hadn't published it yet, um, but I knew I wanted to write another story. I just couldn't figure out what I was going to write about. But part of what drove me to science fiction, just liking to read it even and write it, is ethical dilemmas and moral quandaries.
Hmm.
That to me is like the pinnacle of what we're trying to say, like these heavy what ifs.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I think I developed the idea for Exoputians in 2018 uh, with the last president and all that nonsense going on and political turmoil. And I was actually thinking of how can I write an allegory
Hmm.
for um, to tell people a story about outsiders. And
Okay.
these outsiders can be people of a certain color, a certain gender, just any sort of background that has, uh, not been favored. So that's what I wanted to write about.
Yeah. Okay. So you really, it sounds like the theme really hit you kind of before the story idea did.
Yeah, it did. It did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's unique. A lot of people will write out, will have the idea or have a character or something like that, and then the theme kind of happens as the story progresses. But you kind of took the approach of theme first.
This story was unique. I've written
Yeah.
quite a few novels since that aren't published yet, and this one is unique in how I did
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we'll jump around to the questions a bit then,
Sure.
because we're kind of talking, just because we're talking about it. Can you tell us a bit about Exoputians and just what it's all about?
Yeah, executions is a word that I created. Exo meaning outside or outer. Putian is another word for human. So outer human. So these people were bred in space to live in space and to actually communicate with a highly advanced extraterrestrial species.
Hmm.
And the point of these people bred in space was to actually um, help save the planet from a devastating climate crisis, which might be coming here one day soon. Uh, so, yeah, I wanted to create a story based on people growing into this mission. They didn't have a choice in it. And all my stories kind of have this theme of slavery.
Hmm.
And I don't mean just like general slavery, like what we're taught in school, but slavery as in like choices that we're not allowed to make, like that we're forced to partake in. And
Okay.
these people were bred for that.
Right.
And
Okay.
so the story progresses with them landing on Earth during the Second American Civil War. It is a race war. The antagonist is a white supremacist dictator that has split up America. With um, I was just about to reveal a little plot secret there, so whoops.
That's all
I'm not
right.
used to talking about my own novel, you know.
Yeah. No, that's totally. It's still all good. All good. I can always edit things out if you do get carried away and don't want, and share something you don't want out there. Cool. Yeah. So I mean, we talked a little bit. We talked a little bit before we hit record. You had mentioned it is a very politically charged novel. How did you go about infusing that with this idea? I know you talked that you had kind of a theme initially, but how did you kind of take the political themes that are in the book and work them into the book in a way that was also fresh and new to the reader?
I wanted to provide a glimpse. The whole point of creating the executions was to show a different sort of people to gain empathy for others and to see um, their setbacks in America, but through a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely the being in science fiction helps. So I consider this novel to be mid-future, so it's not near future within the next 5 to 15 years, hopefully. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's based maybe like 50 to 100 years out
Okay.
from our point now, and you can tell with the world building that America has severely collapsed, and we have a new American territory, the sovereign states, which are the white supremacist states that
Okay.
have really grown into a sick, lawless, twisted world where the gun is the is the ultimate is the king.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so, was there a specific event or occurrence that really inspired the work, particularly?
I don't think a specific one. I think it was just
Okay.
everything that had happened since
Yeah.
2016.
Hmm.
Um, it just culminated in me, and I could just, for me, I feel like it's easy to kind of see how things are moving along
Hmm.
and see. Please note, I wrote this before 2020, everything that
Okay.
happened then, before the riot on January 6th. So
Mm.
this is
Wow.
it, like, to me, all that stuff is very obvious that it was going to happen. And
Right.
and then I wrote it first and then saw, I was like, yeah, okay, so how much more of this future are we gonna see?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and
Uh,
obviously, I mean, quite a divided country in a lot of ways. So I think it was easy to see that sort of path
yeah,
as a
yeah.
possible future, right?
And part of what I wanted to uh, talk about in my novel is that not one side is right entirely. Like, not the right, not the left that we call it in America,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
isn't really left at all. They're really much the same thing, just one's a little crazier than the other, and it depends on what side that you think is the crazier one. Um, and the executions experience this. They see both sides as just horrifying. Like, they're
Right,
not really
right.
treated well by anybody. So that's what I wanted to show.
That's cool. So you've got then the exoputians that are really an outside, people looking in at this situation without preconceived notions that we often will go into a political discussion with.
Yeah, yeah. They've been tasked with saving the Earth, which has fallen into the climate crisis, and so they haven't been told the real history of the world.
Hmm.
So they're
Okay.
learning that what they've been taught has been a lie.
Hmm.
So they
Okay.
really beg the question, like, what really is our mission? Like, is it worth doing? So
Yeah. Okay. I really enjoy that.
thanks.
A lot of the same themes actually that I have in Eclipse, not as political and on the ground, but some of those themes are still there. So I really enjoy that, and that's
Yeah, thanks.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
important. They're important to have. It's we need to be able to discuss these things and see what it could be so that we change it for the better.
Hmm.
Yeah, like The Handmaid's Tale. I think that's the closest novel that I can think of and have found that my book is related to. And yeah, that's another
Okay.
just scary war-torn hellscape of a new America. Just, we don't
Right.
want that, so let's talk about it.
Yeah. So that's a great segue into other inspirations for you. So you mentioned The Handmaid's Tale. Are there any other authors that have inspired your writing?
Oh yeah. I gotta start with Michael Crichton, Jurassic
Hmm.
Park, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an epic novel.
Hmm.
Um, Great movie. I, I mean, I was a little kid when I first saw the movie, and then it brought me into the novel,
Yeah.
and, and I read that, and just the different um, nuances between the book and the movie were really cool
Yeah.
to read about when I was a kid. So definitely Michael Crichton. He's just a boss.
Yeah.
Um, Dan Simmons, Hyperion.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's just that's the best book to me ever in the world.
Hmm.
Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion. I'm actually reading it again right now.
Oh cool.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Hyperion, Jurassic Park, Hemingway.
Oh really? Okay.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I love old literature. Hemingway and Fitzgerald are great. I love them.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, I mean, no author is perfect, and everyone's going to have something to say about what they did and said, and like, but
Yeah.
we have to look at the work. Like, we're not talking about the people
That's right.
themselves and how they were. The work, the art is quite amazing with both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did. I mean, I took a lot of English classes in university and that sort of thing. Hemingway was one that I often enjoyed The Sun Also Rises
Yep, I
and
was just gonna say that.
yeah,
That's
Farewell to Arms, both
amazing.
of those. Yeah, I really enjoyed that work. So I'm with you there. He's yeah, he was for the time he was in, and yeah, like I mean, he obviously had his own problems, but the work itself, it was one of the few works I enjoyed, um, that I actually enjoyed in some of those lit classes. So
Well, yeah, good deal. Just a few more. Ender's Game.
yeah,
I
okay,
mean, I read that in seventh grade, and
yeah,
it blew my mind.
hmm.
That was probably like one of the first real and heavy science fiction books I read. And like, I mean, it's devastating. It's crazy.
Hmm.
And to be a little kid reading a book about a little kid doing this, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right.
awesome.
Have you gone back later on, after and read it to like kind of get a perspective as an adult versus what you had as a kid with it?
Ender's Game, no. I keep planning on reading this series. I'd only read the first one back in
Yeah.
the day, and I just hadn't got to it. But I plan
Okay.
on reading more of the series and the first one over again.
So let's talk about then your writing process. You said now this book you had ready. It sounds like quite a while ago.
Yeah.
How do you go about your process as far as writing and then editing it? Like how, what did that look like in leading up to now 2024? This book is being released.
Yeah, writing the first draft took me like 3 months. It was
Oh,
pretty quick. It was like
hmm.
a standard professional writer's 3 months to do a book.
Okay.
Like every morning, about 2 to 3 thousand words and bang it out. And I
Nice.
did that. But then like I read it a few times, drafted it, sent it to some people. They're like, yeah, it's good. But then for a while I just got worried that it was just so politically charged and so strong. I was
Hmm.
just like, I don't know how people are gonna think about it, and I wasn't sure.
Right.
So I literally just let it sit. I wrote four other books in the meantime,
Oh, okay.
and I just let it sit and collect dust. And then finally, last year, after my first book published, I was like, okay, let's get this together. Let's
Hmm.
be an adult and look at it. And so I did, and it was still good. And I hired a sensitivity reader
Hmm.
because there's just so much in this novel, and it's very
Right.
strong. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of black characters in this novel. I didn't think it would be a real authentic experience to talk about racial strife without including a bunch of black characters.
Yeah.
So
Makes
I had,
sense.
yeah, so I had hired a black sensitivity reader to go over it to see how I did.
Hmm.
And fortunately, she said I did pretty well. Only
Good.
had a
Good.
few minor notes.
Yeah.
And then after that, yeah, I just kept editing, tweaking, and then line editing, and yeah, got myself a great cover designer, and finally finally putting it out there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that is important to, go through that sensitivity reader process. I feel like that's something that a lot of authors are hesitant to do. But especially, like you said, if your book is racially charged and especially you've got people fighting over race, that's
Yep.
something that, I think is important to get another perspective on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I knew I needed it, but I hadn't even heard of what a sensitivity reader was. And then from one
Yeah.
of my Discord writing groups, I had found
Mhm.
it and just, oh, hey, this is awesome. Just wow, this exists.
Yeah.
So then I looked and found one, and she was amazing, and yeah, it went from there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, one of those things that you don't hear about until you're kind of in it in the writing community, because that's not something I had ever heard of
right,
before
yeah,
either, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, it's my yeah, it's exploded my knowledge base and just like word usage of writing community stuff. It's just
yeah.
it's completely changed.
Hmm. Yeah, and I do think, to your earlier point about letting it sit, I feel like that might have been, to your advantage, because I feel like a lot of people, especially through COVID, once COVID hit, did not just want to deal with, a lot of the,
Yeah,
extreme politics that was happening at the time. Um,
yeah, yeah.
do you feel like now, I guess, one, I obviously hope that it's a better time, but do you feel like that some of that has calmed a little bit to where people might be willing to read this type of work now? Like we've got.
I
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Keep going.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, we've also got the movie, this Civil War movie that's coming out as well, which I feel like might be very timely for the release of your book.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts around that?
So I had actually tried to use that to help market my book,
Okay,
and I saw it Friday afternoon as soon as I could. Yeah,
okay,
the movie. I wasn't. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't need to pull the movie apart, but I wasn't too impressed with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
No. If you see it, then we can talk about why.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, I think now is the best time, um, especially with the upcoming election and all that nonsense going on. Like
Yeah.
I think we need to have a talk. And I don't know if a bunch of psycho 4chan guys are gonna read my book and like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm a little nuts, but I think it's time we all need to get a little more understanding and empathy
Hmm.
and discuss more. So yeah, I think it's a
Okay.
great time.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Um, Can you talk a little bit more about, I guess, some of that empathy you meant? You just touched on it a little bit. Can you just touch a little bit more about how that plays out in the book, without getting into spoilers?
Yeah, sure. So the Exoputians are super empathetic people. They are very understanding. I mean, they grew up in close quarters with a good number of themselves in a space shuttle,
Hmm.
a space station. Just a small cabin, bouncing around. They have to live and coexist peacefully. You have to, and they grew up together, and they're also like a new species of humans. And I think what a lot of people hope for with the next progression of humanity is more understanding, more care, more thought. And yeah, that would be empathy. Um,
Right.
and yeah, we reflect on the executions having a lot of empathy, and then characters around them not having empathy, and how that plays out with them and their outlook on the world that they're
Hmm.
supposed to save.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I'm gonna jump around with a few of these questions again, just because
Sure.
we've kind of touched a little bit on, I think, a lot of them already.
Yeah.
Uh, um, can you tell me a little bit more about the world you created and what was difficult for you in the process of creating the world?
I'll start with that first. What was difficult?
Yeah. Okay.
What was difficult was writing and getting into the speeches, the mind of the white supremacist dictator, and what he
Hmm.
would say, and the ignorance that he would think and believe and convey to his people. It sucked. Um, I did it well, but it sucked to do
Hmm.
and to think about. Like that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah. And I almost feel like it would be harder to make it realistic and not this cartoony caricature of someone as well, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, uh, NetGalley, you know NetGalley?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I put my book on NetGalley, and
Okay.
I actually got a very poor review because the person did not understand what an antagonist is.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and compared it to some stuff I don't need to talk about here, but
Hmm.
yeah, I
Okay.
was like, dude, this is the bad guy. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be
Right.
bad. Like this isn't pro bad guy. Just yeah, so I guess I did that pretty well.
Hmm.
Unfortunately. Um, but yeah, so
Yeah.
with 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 the split America, like we're kind of we're on a road trip. The executions are on a road trip, and I think that was one of the easiest ways to really world build and to
Okay.
show the destruction of the country and how people act in this new ripped apart world.
Hmm.
Um, so should I get into like some nitty gritty?
Go for it. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever you
yeah. so like there's martial law close to the border between the sovereign states and the rest of the United States of America,
Hmm.
and so they can't drive at night. They have to buckle down for the evening and kind of hide out. Um, there's people traveling north and to the east and west because the climate crisis is so bad and because of the war. So people are homeless and just trying to get out, get away from the heat, move from border to border. So
Mm.
now, yeah, now we have American immigrants trying to claw their way to different borders. So
Right. Okay.
nothing people want to experience.
For
And
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. And how much research did you have to do to, I guess, kind of get some of the nuances of what would happen politically in some of these situations?
hell, I watch the news, man. That's yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think I did a lot of research for this.
Okay.
I really
Yeah.
don't. Um, yeah, just watching the news and just the putrid nonsense going on then
Hmm.
was, I think, enough.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about your characters? I know you talked a bit about your antagonist, and I think to that point, like, if people don't like your antagonist, I think you did write them well. I think that's the point. If they can't decipher that they are the antagonist, but I mean, you've obviously built a complex world, so that's good. But can you tell us a little bit about your protagonists and how the world shapes up for them?
Yeah, yeah. The protagonist is Mary, the Exopution. She's kind of like I wouldn't say technically the matriarch, but people look up to her. She's even younger than a few of the men on board the
Okay.
station, and then come down with her. But they all still look to her.
Hmm.
And yeah, Mary is the one that has actually contacted the extraterrestrial species. So they're all looking to her for input and guidance on how to navigate um, Earth.
Right.
And yeah,
Okay.
she's super empathetic. She feels more than the rest of them,
Hmm.
and there's a reason for that. She
Hmm.
has to feel more like she's the one who communicated with them, and that is due to their genetic makeup, and their actual brain itself is different from our human brain. They
Okay.
have more going on.
Hmm. Okay. So how does that affect her journey through this new world that she has to navigate?
um I How does it affect the journey? I guess just her seeing the destruction of this world and not understanding. Like her
Hmm.
empathy kind of breaks where she doesn't understand why they were taught these lies
Okay.
of helping humanity. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so they definitely have a point of reckoning and turning from execution, um, a higher level of human to becoming human and thinking, wait, what? Why are we doing this?
So AJ, what can readers expect as they read this book? Obviously, there's a lot going on. What kind of emotional impact do you believe it'll have on them?
It's a friend beta read it for me, and he had said, it's kind of a horror story. And I didn't realize that it was sort of a horror story, but it definitely is. It's not like creepy, scary, or cosmic horror at all, but it's like Handmaid's Tale kind of horror story.
Mm.
And yeah, I hope people get some empathy out of it and just thinking outside of the box on where we're at in our world and our life and with just people around us, our neighbors. Um, Hopefully, it will get people's eyes opening just a little bit to just appreciating everyone.
Yeah, I love it. I love that a lot. Yeah.
That's my
Um,
hope. I mean, if people
yeah.
don't, then I get that too. It's yeah, I mean, like it can be a devastating novel, like it is. it's gnarly.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the novel that maybe we haven't touched on yet?
No, I think we did a pretty good job so far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we covered a lot of bases, so I just wanted
yeah,
to make sure I didn't miss anything there.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Um, AJ, can you give us just maybe give us some writing advice for someone who might be just starting out in their journey? Anything that has helped you?
Yeah, when I'm on a project, I write every day.
Hmm.
When I'm on a project, I kind of let the story take over. I don't force myself to write exactly,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I don't have a project going on. Like I have no need to write if I don't have something in my mind. There's a lot of that going on, and I fully don't believe in that at all. But that's me. But yeah, just write every day. Do as much as you can. Chip away, one word at a time. Stephen King said that. Just you. That's how you write a book.
Yeah. Right.
Like you have to keep going until it's finished.
Yeah.
Even if you hate it, just do it. Just like learn from it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just
Cool.
just keep it up and read a lot. Just read everything. And go online and read too. Like talk to other authors and figure out what's working, what's not.
Right.
Um, I
Yeah.
I think all right, one more piece of advice. I'd stay off social
Absolutely.
media for writing. Just it is a joke.
Yeah.
Not like that doesn't help. Discord is different. Discord is I would not consider social media. But Twitter and all that, like that is useless. So don't
Yeah.
get your information from there. Look at some good sites by actual writers and just just keep hitting that keyboard or if you're crazy enough, use that pen and pencil.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, totally hear you there. Yeah. I have found Twitter somewhat useful for nothing else other than meeting some other authors. So that
Yeah,
has been good.
I have met
But
just a few, and it's been cool.
yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, it can be, but I wouldn't get like writing advice from there.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
I
Yeah,
mean,
if you can avoid Twitter at all costs, that's probably the best advice you can give anyone.
yeah, I did actually meet a good guy, and I was in a science fiction comedy anthology because of meeting him on Twitter. So
Hmm.
it's not all fruitless.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So
you've got to really separate the wheat from the chaff
yes, you
in a
do.
big way.
Yes, you do, and it's tough too. It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what can readers expect from you next? And do you have other projects? I know you said you had a few projects kind of under your belt. What's the next thing coming out?
Yeah. So my themes are high tech brain, slavery, and basically corporate interests.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I delve into with all my novels. Not so much corporate interest in execution, uh, but my next story is Dream State. It will come out hopefully at the end of the year. It's wild. It's VR, AR, brain implant technology.
Hmm.
It's everything that shouldn't happen.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. That
yeah,
sounds interesting. Looking
yeah.
forward to that.
It's a fun wild ride,
Hmm.
but it's something that we shouldn't do. Yeah,
Fair enough. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Looking forward to that, AJ. So this is the greatest podcast in the multiverse. So can you tell me how, in a parallel universe, a different decision might have shaped another version of your life?
Yeah, yeah. I grew up fishing and hunting. I in another life I'd probably be a park ranger or a fishing
Hmm.
guide.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up
Yeah.
in Virginia and went fishing like almost every weekend, and I love it. Yeah, it's fun. It's relaxing, and yeah, sometimes you got to bring something home too. Um, but another one, maybe a cook, a chef. I love cooking a lot. I actually did a short stage, like just on the weekends because I had a day job, have a day job. But yeah, I did a little work at a restaurant in LA for
Okay.
a few months to learn
Yeah.
how to do it and see if I wanted to change paths. I didn't
Okay.
ultimately change paths.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
Chefs and restaurant workers in general do not get what they deserve
No, they don't.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
They work 6 days a week, like 10, 12 hour
And
shifts. They
insane
bust their
hours.
asses and get paid
Mhm.
nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's not fair. And like, I'm not going to do
Yeah,
that.
and I've never understood, and I don't know if this is based from state by state, but I've never understood how in America minimum wage is less for a service worker than for um,
Yeah.
other
That,
workers. That
yeah.
to me has never made sense.
No. The only one who can rationalize that is the asshole on top. It's just,
Right, no,
yeah.
yeah, right. So cool. And park ranger, is that something that you ever looked at seriously pursuing, or is that just something that you kind
Not
of,
seriously.
yeah,
If I semi-retire, if I make enough money from writing, come on, people, come on, let's buy some books now.
yeah,
Then I would seriously consider that because
hmm,
I don't want to work a job 9 to 5. I mean, come on, let's be real. Who does?
yeah, right.
Not even the people up top. They barely work at all. They click a button and tell people what to do. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would love to be a park ranger and just write. That would be cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you would have all day to think about what was going on in the stories,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you get to be
Yeah.
outside, you get to be in nature. You get to do a
Hmm.
lot of hard work with your hands. I like working with my hands and being outside and hiking. I mean, that's awesome. So yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah, really cool. One more question for you. I almost forgot to ask you. AJ Pagan the fourth. That is the name that you obviously that's your name, but you've chosen to go with the full name on your books. I'm actually Herman Stuarnagle the fourth, which I don't publish under. Um, so was it ever a thought for you to not to include that as your part of your pen name?
Um, no, not really. Hasn't really been a
Okay.
thought. No, I mean that's part to me. It's part of my name and just to
Yeah.
differentiate. So yeah, like it seems to kind of have a little zip there. And everyone said they like my name. I don't really like my name,
Yeah.
but other people say they do. So yeah,
Yeah, no, it's cool. I know
yeah,
a
it's
lot of
sticking.
people have mentioned that I should include it. I think my name is long enough, so that's part of the reason why I left it
It
off.
is quite long, but yeah,
Yes,
it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
right, and then tack the fourth on the end of that, right? So it's just yeah. When I was actually the company that I do kind of publish my books under is the Fourth Media because it used to be I used to run a website design company and I called it the Fourth.
Okay.
So that was how I integrated the fourth as part of that.
Cool.
But yeah, as far as printing out of the book, designers already have a tough enough time trying to get
Yeah.
get my name to fit. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean,
won't add an extra struggle for them.
yeah, you got the whole alphabet there. So yeah, I don't blame you at all.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, AJ. This has been a real pleasure. I'm so happy that you were able to join me today.
Oh yeah, thank you, Herman. This is super cool. It's always nice to just talk books
Yeah,
and writing. Um, I'm definitely not the best at talking about my own books. I don't know a lot of writers who are, just because I
yeah,
never get the chance either.
that's true. Yeah,
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So yeah,
cool.
thank you. It's cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Can you tell readers where they can find you and where they can find
yeah.
your books?
You can find my book, Exoputians, um, basically anywhere. It's wide distribution. You can
Awesome.
find it from Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, Jeff Bezos's Kingdom if you want to get it the next day because you need it so fast. Yeah, you can buy it everywhere. And then on my site, there's a direct link, which helps me out more, gives me a larger royalty, so I can hopefully be a park ranger someday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So yeah, my
Awesome.
website is neuralit.com.
Okay,
And
perfect.
yeah.
Awesome. I will be sure to link all of that in the show notes. Thank you once again. It's been a blast.
Hey, thank you, Herman. It's cool. Yeah. I really like your behind you. Your
Oh,
are
my
those your
the
book covers?
posters?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they are. So my the posters. I've got a couple posters here. The other one, I've got another one up. That's book two and book three of my
Yeah.
current series, and
That's
then
awesome. That's a cool
I've got
idea. I never thought about doing just like a huge framed photo like that.
yeah. My wife actually I think it was for my birthday one year. She printed off my first series. I've got them kind of on the other side of the room there. And so I'm like, yeah, this is a great idea. So I've kind of hung them behind me here, the newest ones.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, we will chat with you again soon.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed the show, like and subscribe on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Greatest Podcast in the Multiverse. As well, you can help support the show by supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can get early access to the show, as well as submit your questions for my upcoming guests. I hope to see you next time. Bye now.